Shalom, it's Izzy, your Hebrew teacher here, and this is Hebrew Chapters with Holy Language Institute. We are reading a story today. It's quite a fantastic story from the book of Genesis, chapter 41. This is in the Torah portion that is called Miketz, as you can see here. There are quite a few interesting words in the story that we're going to be unpacking. We have a word related to the word for create that we see in Genesis 1:1. We see an interesting picture of brotherhood and sisterhood. There are some interesting insights we get into the correlation between the end of days and waking up from a dream, as it were. Also, a Hebrew word related to the Old Covenant that maybe gives us a better understanding of older and newer covenants. There are some other neat things in here too that we'll be getting into. Let's take a moment to pray and then we'll start reading. Thank you, Abba Father, that we can study your word in the original language in which you chose for it to be written down, recorded for Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, and for all humanity. Thank you that we can read the very words that our master, our Rabbi Yeshua of Nazareth, read. Thank you that we can follow in his footsteps, so to speak, in such a neat way. I pray for each of us as we're reading that your Ruach, your Spirit, would help us, quicken our memories, enable our long-term memory and retention better than ever. And I pray that we could have both a fun and a meaningful time. Thank you for these old stories and for how relevant they are to today. We appreciate that. Thanks that we're not just learning a language, we are learning you. We're learning about you. And we do desire deep in our hearts to come to know you more intimately, to understand you better. And we're praying for that. We're praying for spiritual revelation. Thank you. Amen. So here we are in Genesis chapter 41, the 10th Torah portion. We'll just be reading word by word. This is a rather long chapter, so I may be going at a slightly quicker clip than usual. So buckle your safety belt for that. If you haven't learned how to read Hebrew yet, I would encourage you to learn to read Hebrew with me in the 40 lessons of Hebrew Quest at holylanguage.com. Either way, you'll have a great time with this. But if you know how to read Hebrew, you will have a better time of it. So we'll just go through this, reading it word by word, breaking it down, identifying the 3-letter verbal roots that all Hebrew words are composed of. And with some of them, I'll also take some time to explain them for you in greater depth. Vayehi, Yehi there means and it will be, or and it will come to pass. With the vav on the front, it changes the verb tense, so to speak. Hebrew doesn't exactly have verb tenses, but it's essentially the same thing. It changes that to and it came to pass, and so it happened. Miketz. That means at the end, or from the end. Ketz there means end. And we are going to see a little later in this story that this word is used in another way that helps us to understand something about the end of days. Now hold that in your mind. At the end of Shnatayim, as you know, a Shana is a year. I'm on the end of the word is the dual form, meaning two of something. So Shnatayim means 2 years. At the end of 2 years, Yomim. A yom is a day. Here we have Yomim, the plural, meaning, New American Standard, Premier Christian Bible Translation, translates this as 2 full years. Art Scroll, a premier traditional Jewish translation, renders this as 2 years to the day. So I will leave it to you to figure out what this means. Shnatayim Yamim. Anyway, at the end of this time period, Pharaoh, and Pharaoh, Cholem, verbal root to chalam is to dream. Here it's actually in the equivalent of the the present or ongoing tense. So Pharaoh is dreaming. V'hinei, and behold, exclamation mark. Basically, when you have this Hebrew word hinei, behold, it means exclamation mark. Omed, so he is standing. All on Hayol. The Yol is the river, the Nile River in the land of Egypt. V'hinei, and behold. Min, from Hayol, the river. Olot, verbal root ala, to go up. So olot, going up. Sheva, 7 parot. A pal is a cow, a male cow. A para is a female cow. Here we have parot, so 7 female cows. Yifot, verbal root yafa is to be handsome or beautiful. So yifot here means beautiful. These were some very beautiful cows, apparently. Mara, verbal root ra'a, to see. So here we have mara, which is the way something or someone looks, appearance. So they had a beautiful appearance. U vriot, verbal root there is bara. We'll read the next word and then I'll explain this one for you. Basal. Basal is flesh or meat. So their flesh was what? It was bari. Now here's something interesting. This verbal root here, bara, it means to be fat or healthy or substantial in this situation, but it's also the verbal root used in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, meaning to create. Genesis 1:1 says, Bereshit, in the beginning, bara, usually translated created, Elohim, God. So in the beginning, God created. Bereshit bara Elohim. And here's this same verbal root that was used in reference to the creation of the cosmos to describe these cows that were fat. What's the connection between something being fat, fattened, or substantial, thick, so to speak, and being created? Can you see possibly a parallel there? Maybe keying in on the idea of substance. When something is fat, it is substantial. When something is created, it is given substance. It is substantiated. Maybe that's the connection. There are a couple other interesting usages of that Hebrew verbal root to create. Maybe I'll just go on a little bunny trail with you here. In Joshua chapter 17, he tells one of the tribes of Israel, they say, we don't have enough land. It's squishy, the territory that you gave us. And he says, well, look at all the forest you have. Go and clear some land for yourself in the forest. And the Hebrew word, therefore, clearing land, in that case, in the sense of deforesting, is this verbal root, to bara. So when they clear land, they're creating space for themselves. So that's another sense of the word. Interestingly enough, that actually has the opposite sense. Here in this case, bara means to be substantial or fat. There it means to actually clear, which is kind of the opposite. There's one other interesting usage of this verbal root in 2 Samuel chapter 12. It means to eat. To eat. Maybe perhaps related to the concept of getting substance or getting fat. There does seem to sometimes be a correlation between eating and getting fat. Interesting. So here we have, anyway, back to the story about the cows. Apparently, they were quite substantial. Va tirena, verbal root there is ra'a, with an ayin in the middle. You can see that there. To means to graze or pasture. Ba'ahu. This word ahu means marshland or marsh grass. And it's interesting because it comes from the verbal root aha, ending with the letter hey. And it's the same verbal root that the Hebrew word for brother and sister come from. The Hebrew word for brother is ach. The Hebrew word for sister is achot. And it comes from the same word. What does that mean? It means there's something about marsh grass that's growing thick and close together, that is a picture. Thanks for watching this trailer. To get this whole talk in audio or video format, go to holylanguage.com and subscribe. I'll see you there.